Are ready to kick off? Oh, right. Well, not what was advertised, I'm afraid. Denise is not very well this week, so I have leapt in at the last minute just to do the opening welcome to your online befriending conference, which looks like you've got a packed program. So you'll be delighted to know my speech will be under 2 minutes long because we've got some great speakers who are lined up to obviously share all sorts of information about befriending. The reason I'm wearing my bee antlers or whatever they're called, little headdress, is the whole of last week I was living as a bee, as you may have seen from the photos at the beginning on the slideshow. We had what's called Civil Service Charities Week, which is a week-long series of activities to promote the work of the civil service charities. That's us, the Charity for Civil Servants, and the Sports Council. And we had an event in London on Monday. We had an event in Ministry of Justice on Tuesday. We were in HMRC in Leeds on Wednesday. And drove all the way up to Glasgow to do an event on the Thursday and then back on the Friday, all of which was very much focused on raising awareness about our services. And the befriending schemes were front and center of that experience. As those who may have overlapped with us will testify, both myself and Denise donned B1s at various points during the week to promote our befriending schemes. Anyway, without further ado, I just wanted, before I hand over to Letitia, just to say a huge thank you to her. It is no mean feat to put together a conference. Obviously, we were hoping this year might have been in person, but we're online instead. But hopefully 2026, we will be back in person at Leamington Spa for those of you who've been along. But the program looks fascinating. It's very on point. There's lots of subject matter, which is both of interest for you individually as befrienders, but also for widely for people in later life and, keeping fit, keeping healthy, digital, all sorts. And I'd like to say thank you to the speakers for very kindly giving their time as well. And without further ado, I will bid you adieu. Enjoy your conference, and I will hand you over to Letitia, who will kickstart everything for you. So thank you ever so much and have a fascinating next couple of hours, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much, David. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you and your lovely words. Thank you. And just to follow on what David was saying about the Civil Services Charities Week last week, just want to give a huge shout out to wonderful Olive, who was definitely the star of the show last week. Not only was she the best speaker that was on stage last week, she instead of just relaxing and having a cup of tea after the speech, she decided to start networking. She took a cup around to collect some cash donations, and she collected a huge total of £52 and 31 pence in about 10 minutes. She was speeding around like a busy bee, and it was just fantastic to see. I was at the table, manning the table with all the leaflets and all the other freebies we were giving out. But Olive, she just didn't stop. And after she did her speech, every single person who came to the CSRF table said that Olive gave a wonderful, inspiring, amazing speech. So well done, Olive, and thank you so much for your contribution. So thank you. It was wonderful. Okay, so, oh, I can't do my reactions. I'm trying to do a reaction and it's not allowing me to. Okay, never mind. So, welcome everybody. Just want to quickly go through the agenda so you know what's happening. So after I've done a little bit of an intro, we'll have a very interesting speech from Richard Wildash talking about the Befriending Working Group update. And then we have Sir Muir Gray, who's going to do a speech on how to live longer, better, which will be fascinating. And the fascination doesn't stop there, because then we have Aging and the Digital with Dr. Wendy Martin. And then after that, we have an interactive segment where we will have a 5-minute instructional laughter video, laughter yoga video with Dr. Mandan Kataria. And so this will be interactive for all of us to join in on, because laughter is supposed to be very good for you indeed. And then we'll have a very quick coffee morning update. A lot of you here were at the coffee morning, but we'll just give you a quick recap of what took place then. And then at the end, we'll have a short quiz, and then we'll have our thank yous and closing thoughts. So thank you very much. So first of all, for those of you who had a look at the first invite that was sent out, you would have noticed that one of the speakers was going to be Aideen Young from the Centre of Aging Better. But unfortunately, she's unable to attend because she's had an injury. So she had to pull out at the last minute. So she sent her apologies. But we did agree with her that there's a possibility of her doing another event with the CSRF later on in the year. And so we will let you know when that's ready to take place. And we'll have it in the calendar and we'll send out invites for that. So that's something for us to look forward to later on in the year. Richard is going to be going through the in his speech part of the strategy update, but I just have some supplementary notes to go through with you all with regards to the strategy. So we have our 4 pillars of growth, community, improvement, and funding. In terms of growth, through an interaction with Anne Nash, David had a meeting with HASRA, which is the Staff Association for DWP, to discuss how the HASRA network can support volunteering opportunities on the befriending schemes and to promote the digital donor program. So that sounds very positive. In terms of community, as mentioned, we had our first coffee morning of the year back in February. And of course, today we've got our conference and we are planning other events for later on in the year. So keep your eyes peeled for invites out for that. And also plans are being put in place to update the website. We want to add games and puzzles and holiday photos and increase the number of stories and generally make it more interactive for people to come and look at the website. In terms of improvement, as we mentioned at the coffee morning, we have a new marketing team in place to improve our brand awareness and engagement with members and stakeholders and to increase donations. And they worked very hard last week during Civil Service Charities Week, networking with various government departments across London and Leeds last week. And in terms of funding, we had the Friendship Walk last year that raised almost £1,000 from a very small handful of donors. We won't be doing anything specific for befriending this year because the focus will be the Diamond fundraising appeal, which so far has raised £15,800. So that's the update that I have for you. And so next we're going to go to our first speaker. So this is so exciting. I'm so happy about all of this. So I'm just going to give Richard a little introduction here. So Richard's career has seen him as the deputy head of mission at the British Embassy in Riyadh and the British ambassador to Sao Tome and Principe, and also ambassador to Angola, and he's previously served as British High Commissioner, to Malawi and the British High Commissioner to Cameroon, and non-resident ambassador to Gabon, Chad, and the Central African Republic and Equatorial Guinea. And in 1977, he received an honour issued by the Queen, which was the Lieutenant of the Royal Victoria Order. Richard is a member of the board of directors of the CSRF and has been a life member since 2013. And he's an active volunteer befriender in the CSRF befriending schemes and is chair of the befriending working group. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you very much, Leticia. Can I just do a quick audio check? Can everybody hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
great. That's good.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you for this opportunity to speak this afternoon. Everybody is here today because, like me, you all believe in befriending. So I'm not going to persuade you of its value. Instead, I just want to share a few thoughts on some specific aspects of our work and the current challenges that we are facing. As Leticia has said, I've been befriending myself for a couple of years now, and have been leading on befriending services for the board of directors since last year, and chair the working group on befriending services, which reports to the board on progress in implementing the strategic plan that Leticia mentioned, which runs from 2024 to 2026. When the fellowship launched Befriending in 2012, I don't think we had a strategic plan, but I'm sure that a plan is helpful. Funding is tighter now than ever before. Attracting volunteer befrienders is a constant challenge in a busy world, and establishing contact with potential new service users is difficult in a noisy world. So we really need to focus our efforts to ensure that we get maximum possible output from the resources that we are putting in. And strategic planning, I think, can help. As you know, we are a small organisation. We currently have 53 volunteer befrienders, 54 service users, and 12 pen pals. That makes a total of 119 participants. Almost all of these are active, so the result is 49 matches and 6 pen pal links. That is to say, 55 service users benefiting from the schemes. Though we are undeniably small, our volunteer befrienders, equally undeniably, are extremely effective and highly appreciated. The working group has just reviewed responses to the 2024 annual service users survey. This is an important tool that allows us to see the impact that our befriending schemes are having. In these results, I was particularly struck by 3 things. First of all, 100% of respondents said that our schemes improve their mental health. Not 95% or 90%, but 100%. Secondly, a majority of users stick with our schemes. 2/3 have been participating for over 2 years. People don't generally drop out of our schemes because they are effective and helpful. And the third thing that struck me was that most of our service users do not use any other organisation's schemes. They just use ours. Many point to the quality of our befriending and the commitment of our volunteer befrienders. Both of these compare favourably to schemes run by other organisations. And the civil service element, which is our unique selling point, is important for many. We are able to recruit new volunteer befrienders and service users. We have increased our pool of volunteer befrienders by 3 over the last 4 months. But over the same period, we have lost a volunteer befriender. We will always be losing volunteer befrienders, service users, and pen pals from time to time through natural wastage, people moving or sadly dying. So we need to continue to work hard if we're going to reach the goal set out in the strategic plan of a 10% increase from 2024 levels by next year. It means a net increase of 5 volunteer befrienders and 5 service users. How can we best achieve this? I think word of mouth, including recommendation through local group members, remains very important. We are engaging with a number of civil service related member organisations such as Boundless and HASRA that Leticia mentioned, the CSPA and the Civil Service Club, which could be powerful multipliers. We use print media. In the last week, I've seen articles about CSRF befriending in my union magazine and in my local advertiser in Worcester Park. Head Office have developed a new media pack, which includes leaflets and posters. We're placing these on public notice boards in libraries and community centres, in GPs' waiting rooms, and with churches, among others. But as we do all this, we're mindful of the need to balance need and availability. We try to avoid stimulating demand that we cannot meet, and to avoid recruiting volunteer befrienders for whom we can't find service users. Both of these lead to frustration and disappointment. The working group is also trying to build a strong community of volunteer befrienders, and today's conference is an important component of that. Head office hold regular informal virtual get-togethers. We have set up a mentoring facility for volunteer befrienders to offer each other support and advice. All of this allows continuous improvement as we discuss together and learn from each other. If you think back to your first visit, phone call, or letter, whether as a volunteer befriender, a service user, or a pen pal, many of you may remember, as I do, how that encounter seemed at the time like such a big thing. The relationships that we develop with our matches are very personal, very meaningful, often intense, often restorative, and always significant. We invest heavily in them, and there are highly meaningful rewards that flow from them for both service user and volunteer befriender, as well as for pen pals. I have learnt a great deal from the befriending that I've done, which I know is a small contribution in comparison with what many of you have done for much longer than I've been a volunteer befriender. We should all take immense pride in what we do to make a difference. It is the opportunity to make a difference that makes most civil servants become civil servants. And it's no surprise that that is the motivation for joining the fellowship schemes too. In conclusion, let me reaffirm my belief that 4 propositions are indisputably true. Number 1, there is a clear need for the CSRF schemes. Number 2, the schemes are making a difference for those participating in them. Number 3, the schemes are distinctive because of the civil service dimension. And number 4, the schemes are of high quality. Growing the schemes, even modestly, is going to be hard work, but it would be impossible to do at all if those 4 propositions weren't true. And we must never forget that when we talk about the schemes, we are talking not about an abstract concept, but about you, our volunteer befrienders, service users, and pen pals, and your contribution. For that contribution, as ever, I know that everyone in our community is most sincerely grateful. I'd also like to pay tribute to the wonderful team at head office and all that they do to support us, and for the work of the board of directors. But above all, I'd like to pay tribute to all of you, our volunteer befrienders. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. That was very inspiring. Thank you. Very interesting indeed. And does anybody have any questions for Richard regarding the speech he's given us today? Any observations or comments that you would like to make?
It is very interesting.
Yes, it is. Yes, is very very interesting indeed. I thought that what you were saying about word of mouth being important, because it means that people find it easier to connect when they're talking to somebody who is either a service user or a volunteer, so that they can directly explain the value of the befriending service and how it can make a change, not just to the person who is being befriending, but also the volunteer as well, because it's a two-way communion, isn't it? There's an exchange of ideas and community between two people, which benefits both people. So I thought it was really interesting, Richard, that you mentioned word of mouth being important to impart that. So thank you very much. And also, if anybody is interested in receiving the media pack to distribute in your local area, you can let me know and I will forward it out to you, either electronically, or we can send you out hard copies if you prefer. So just let me know if you'd like to receive the Befriending media pack.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Kat, you raised your hand. Would you like to ask a comment?
Sorry.
Hi there.
Hi. Sorry. I thought that was really interesting and insightful. Thank you, Richard. I thought one of the things that struck me as well was that frustration on both sides when maybe there are people who volunteer but don't have a match, as well as the other way around. And I wondered if there is something, as somebody who's like a current public servant, I know people who perhaps would be willing, like we happy to be befrienders, but I guess when I haven't known if there are people in their areas who are looking for someone, and maybe there's something about like sending out comms if there's a particular area where another befriender is needed. So I guess it's just that, like the point you made about how to keep the balance between people who volunteer and but not keeping them waiting for too long. But yeah, it was really interesting. Good to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is a bit of a chicken and egg situation. I think you're quite right that we ought to focus on areas where we can see there are gaps. But sometimes the logistics are difficult. Someone's actually got to go to the community hall or the library or wherever it may be to pin up the notice, and that can be challenging. And I suppose telephone befriending can be quite useful if geography is getting in the way. But yeah, overall, it is a challenge to keep that balance right.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to our next speaker. And so our next speaker is Sir Muir Gray, who is a British physician, excuse me, who has held senior positions in screening, public health, information management and value in healthcare, and he was the Chief Knowledge Officer for EXI, a digital health therapeutic company, prescribing exercise to people with at risk of up to 23 long-term health conditions, and is Chief Wellbeing Officer for Learning with Experts, a health-related online learning company working with the NHS. He has held senior positions with research and development for Anglia and Oxford Regional Health Authority and the UK National Screening Committee, during which he helped pioneer Britain's breast and cervical cancer screening programs. He was knighted in 2005 for the development of the fetal, maternal and child screening program and the creation of the National Library for Health. So thank you very much for joining us, Sir Muir. You're on mute at the moment. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Here we are.
Thank you. Lovely.
Have you made me a joint host? Can you do that?
Just bear with me.
Yes, you are a co-host now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hasna.
Let me just see if I can share this.
Wonderful. We can see it.
So I'm going to tell you the facts of life.
Hooray.
Brilliant.
Yep. 2.0, the birds and the bees 2.0. And this is the sort of talk I would give if I were at a branch meeting or a bowls club or a bridge club, or indeed in a hospital or health centre, because most of the medical profession is completely confused about what's happening to us as we live longer. And the answer is that we have discovered an elixir of life. It's called knowledge, and I'm going to give you this knowledge. And I'm looking forward to working with the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship to make this available to everybody as a service. I think we should be doing it pre-retirement to help people with the next 30 years. But let's imagine now I've walked into the bridge club or the bowls club or a health centre or a hospital medical committee room. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you the fact of life 2.0, the birds and the bees. You see, aging is not a cause of major problems until the 90s, and Her Majesty was a wonderful example of this. It does affect your maximum level of ability, maximum pulse rate, for example, and your resilience, your ability to respond to a change in temperature or a trip or isolation or inactivity. But it's not a cause of major problems by itself until the late 90s. But it does have an effect, and here was the effect of lockdown. Because of isolation and inactivity, everyone was affected, but 80-year-olds were more affected than 20-year-olds, and they took longer to recover, and many of them have not recovered to the level that they were at before lockdown, because they lacked resilience. You see, there are only two phases in life. It's not childhood, work, and retirement. There's a phase of growth and development. There's a turning point, and then, ladies and gentlemen, it's downhill all the way. The good news is that the rate at which we go downhill is only partially affected by the aging process. And there are three other processes taking place. And the first of these is loss of fitness. So a fitness gap opens up, and the turning point for many people is about the age of 22. For example, when they leave the university and become a civil servant, and they move into an environment in which for the next 40 years, they're going to spend their life sitting down. And there are 4 books called about chairs and how harmful. I'm trying to get sitting recognized as an occupational hazard like radiation. And I'll come back to that and we'll take some comments from you. Now, what do we mean by the word fitness? Well, there's 2 aspects of fitness. One is the maximum level of ability, and the second is resilience, the ability to respond. So here's, if I asked you all now to go and run a mile, when you came back, well, some of you would not come back, so I would know then. But those who came back, their pulse would return more quickly to normal. And you see, that's very similar to aging, which is why the medical profession has confused loss of fitness and aging until very recently. The good news is that at any age, you can close the fitness gap. Close the fitness gap.
Good.
And there are 4 aspects of fitness, beginning with the letter S: strength, stamina, suppleness, and skill. And we'll come back to these a little bit later. I sometimes say actually there's a 5th aspect of fitness, beginning with the letter S, psychological, but I will also come back to that as well. The second process that affects us is disease. And the longer we live, the more diseases we develop. Not because of aging, but because of the environment in which we live. You see, genetically, we evolved to run about all the time and put on fat very quickly if we were lucky enough to get calories. But the environment we live in now, firstly, doesn't require us to run about all the time. And it makes running about more difficult, local shops being closed, for example. And then you get a job looking at a computer screen or sitting in meetings for 8 hours a day with an hour's commuting there and back. Or, unfortunately, home working, where you lose the benefit of commuting. So diseases like dementia, type 2 diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, these develop. They're environmental. It's not lifestyle. I never use the word lifestyle. What we also see when disease develops is that the fitness gap gets wider faster. Now, here's somebody who's had a heart attack and the onset of heart failure. So the best possible rate of decline accelerates, but the fitness gap gets wider faster. And this may mean that the individual drops below what I call the line. And that's the point at which you can't get to the toilet in time. And you need social care. And I don't find people frightened of cancer anymore. It's dementia and social care that is the big worry that people have. But we can reduce the risk, which I'll come on to talk about. So fitness gets lost even faster, not because of the disease process so much, because other people do things for you. So the son arrives to see his mother in Banbury, and he's come down from Newcastle. And he says, Mum says, oh, having this, it's a bit of a struggle getting to the shops. And the immediate response is Ocado. Whereas a much better thing would be to make sure, perhaps get his mother involved in a local exercise class. Might buy her a little trolley, but for goodness sake, keep her walking to the shops. And if she can walk and carry groceries at the same time, that's very important. I should tell you that sugar is very good for you. Sugar is very good for you, providing you leave it in the 1 kilogram bags and have 1 kilogram or 2 kilograms beside you every time. And every time the advertisements come on television, stand up 10 times. So aging complicated by accelerated loss of fitness. The good news is, no matter how old you are, no matter how many long-term conditions you've got, you can close the fitness gap. And we're now calling this reconditioning. And being admitted to hospital, and you've probably seen this in friends, a couple of people I know in hospital, the first 2 days they were very unwell, but then they were in hospital for about another week, and they hardly moved at all. And the evidence is you lose about 8% of your muscle mass being in hospital for a week. You're deconditioned. So there's also rehabilitation, but also reconditioning, giving people exercise after hospital. And the same principles apply to psychological change, which we'll come on to discuss, and dementia, and how we can reduce the risk of dementia. So we've got aging, loss of fitness, disease, and the fourth factor are social factors. For too many people, there is still deprivation. And for everybody, there is ageism. So we now know that your genes are relatively unimportant. It's much more important your environment and how you relate to your environment. Isolation, loneliness, and your befriending scheme is a dementia prevention service. It's terrific what you're doing. And we're looking at ways in which we can do that automatically by, for example, using digital prescribing. So in future, when people get a diagnosis of, say, type 2 diabetes, we're going to be prescribing health walks, park run, because you do I do park walk. I can't do park run, but I do park walk. Prescribing activity. And that activity is not just physical activity, it's cognitive and emotional. These are the things we have to do. So finding out what people's interests are, and I don't know if the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship does this, but in Buckinghamshire, we're working with some GPs, and we're going to start collecting what people's interests are in terms of music, film, sports, hobbies, because when you get isolated, or even if you're in a care home, you may be the only person who's ever heard of Shostakovich or Preston North End Football Club. But dotted about all over England and the UK will be other people who we can now connect digitally. So as well as just listening to music, you could listen with other people who love your type of jazz or bagpipe music or Wagner or whatever, and share your reactions with them. So these social factors. And ageism is one of the main issues. And I'm sorry that the speaker from the Centre for Aging Better is not here, because they're doing wonderful work to counter ageism. I mean, what age are you? What's the point of that question? Well, there is some point to it, in that everyone who's, I'm 80, everyone who's 80 can remember the Suez Missile Crisis, the Suez War. I worry about my brother going. I can remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I can remember the Beatles. So there's something about having a common memory. But people who are 60 or 70 or 80 or any age differ from one another in many more ways than they're similar. So just to summarize, here are the factors that affect us as we live longer: aging, loss of fitness, physical, cognitive and emotional, and social factors. And here's what we've got to do. Understand this, prevent and tackle disease, regain fitness, and think positive and take action. So I'm going to go quickly through 6 steps, and I'll circulate these. So don't worry about taking notes. I'll circulate these in a little Word file after the meeting. So I'm just going to go through these 6 steps to living longer better. Firstly, close the fitness gap. You start increasing your level of activity. And remember, strength, stamina, suppleness, skill.
Come back with the milk.
And strength is probably the one we've overlooked most, particularly for women. So every woman, 60, 70, 80 or 90, should have a set of weights, or as I said, they could use sugar. But 1 kilogram in each side is not really enough. Here you need 3 or 5 kilograms. So strength, stamina, suppleness, and skill. And of course, it's good to do it with others. And for a birthday or Christmas present, get a present of a yoga or Pilates or Tai Chi or the gym. A few sessions with a trainer can make a great difference building up your daily dozen, I call it. 12 minutes a day for strength, skill, and suppleness. I'll come back to stamina a little bit later. Okay, number 2, reduce your risk of dementia. And there are 3 important strategies. This is a book, we're just rewriting this book. It's based on very good scientific evidence. So keep the brain tissue healthy. Manage stress. Be physically active. It has a direct beneficial effect on the brain. Get sufficient sleep. Secondly, keep the arteries and the blood flowing to the brain. And these are the same changes as reducing the risk of heart disease, because the Alzheimer's disease is not the only cause of dementia. The second cause is what we call vascular. The blood vessels have been interrupted. And you can reduce your risk of dementia by about 1/3. And then the third one's very interesting. Keep increased engagement. So becoming a volunteer is a great thing to do. And actually getting on the committee of a volunteer organization is even better, because you get challenged and you have purpose. The Japanese call it ikigai. Then you've got to recognize that the body changes. So like a classic car, it needs a little bit more attention every year. And I'll give you a link in the note to the repair shop on our one of our websites. Keep your vision sharp. And if you notice or others complain about hearing, get that checked. But all the body, you need to be thinking about it like a classic car. Your lungs, your bowels, your joints. There's much you can do to keep it working well. Fourthly, reduce your risk of disabling disease. If you're under 75, you'll be offered a health check. If you're over 75, we're increasingly going to offer knowledge and a self-health check to people over 75. Weight control is very important. So looking at ways you get your weight back to the weight you were at 30. And again, the problem of overweight is not due to lifestyle and laziness. It's just that we have not genetically evolved to be surrounded by calories everywhere we go. It's completely, we're unsuited to the modern environment. And some people do put on weight very easily. Eat the Mediterranean diet, take any objects for vaccination or for screening for people over 60, and take action if you've been identified. And again, this issue of activity, at least 30 minutes a day of brisk walking. And again, I come back to this. It's just very dangerous. In your workplace, most of you will have been exposed to these dangerous bits of equipment without the right means of responding to it. Standing desks, for example. But I think, and this is what I'm saying to the civil service, you should all be thinking of anyone who's managing should make sure all their staff walks briskly 30 minutes a day. You can have departments competing against one another. And this is my book called Dr. Gray's Walking Cure, about the benefits of walking, and our new campaign, Let's Walk More. You see, the issue is that modern medicine is wonderful, and I'm on 7 pills a day. Here's the information I've had from the NHS in the last year about my pills. And the next PowerPoint shows the information I've had from the NHS in the last 11 years since my heart attack. And it'd probably be the same if I'd been depressed or anxious or whatever. So here is the information I've received about diet and exercise.
Yeah.
Not one word. Well, we're changing all that, I can tell you. Don't worry about that. Then you've got to think about managing your own healthcare. You are the most important person, not the doctor or the nurse. I mean, if you're on an operating table, obviously the surgeon's more important. For prevention, disease, and living with the condition, you're the most important person. Prepare for a consultation by writing down the questions you want answered. Keep your own health record using the NHS app, and make a plan. Get involved with other people with the same condition. Self-care is the most important type of healthcare. As I say, that includes prevention and reducing your risk of developing other conditions. So I'm giving this talk standing up because that's another simple thing you can do to increase your activity and increase your energy output. And then finally, thinking about well-being. I don't use the word health much these days. The NHS is a national disease service. Very important for diagnosis, for acute care, and for starting the right treatment. But many of the problems people have, and many of the problems that people in your befriending service will have, are problems with well-being. There are 8 million people on antidepressants in the UK. 8 million people. Sickness absence among young people is at record levels. And the NHS cannot tackle these well-being problems. And here's a very interesting article, which was in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And this man's a famous laboratory scientist, but look at the subtitle. Renewing purpose, social engagement, and embracing a positive lifestyle. So here are some of our books on how to live longer, better, and how to understand what's happening. But you are a well-being service. The Civil Service Retirement Fellowship is a well-being and a health service. And what I'm going to make this talk available as a film with notes that could be used, those of you who are running local groups. You don't need me there. I've given ideas for how you could break the talk up at certain points, get people to turn to their neighbour and talk. But this is one of the things we'd like to do with the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, and I'm very pleased to be a member of the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, because at retirement age, you should assume you're going to reach 90. And that's a long time that needs a completely fresh look. Retirement is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. So thank you very much for asking me to come. This will all be made available to you, and it'll be made available to those of you who are running local groups. And I'd be very pleased if there's a minute or two to take any questions. And I'll stop sharing.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Sir Muir. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your slides, and your knowledge with us. I was struck by what you said about the CSRF being a well-being service, and it ties into what Richard was saying about the results of our befriending survey, where people were saying 100% of people were saying it supported their mental health. So I'm glad that there's been some tie in there across the two different speeches that we've had today, and what would your advice be to somebody who, like some of us, have been in a sedentary job for a long time and wouldn't know where to start in terms of trying to make changes to their health and well-being?
It's a fairly simple advice. So brisk walking is key. That's walking that makes your breathing come a little bit faster. You can still carry on a conversation, but you know you're breathing a little bit faster. And the NHS app called Active 10 is very good for measuring every minute of brisk walking. So at least 30 minutes a day of brisk walking. And then I go for the daily dozen. So that's a daily dozen of exercises for upper body strength, flexibility, for skill and coordination. I stand on one leg for 2 minutes when I'm brushing my teeth. So there's a lot of that. But obviously, dance. Angela Rippon's launching Let's Dance, has launched Let's Dance, which I'm supporting. So get your children. No more wine or chockies for presents. You go for dance lessons or yoga lessons or some weights. It's never too late. And get back into getting a routine going. It's at least 30 minutes a day of brisk walking and at least 12 minutes a day for strength, suppleness, and skill. Keep the core strength up. Does that sound reasonable, Letitia? What do you think you might do?
Well, I know I need to increase my brisk walking.
Yes.
Because I don't incorporate that much into my day. I try and do some this year, since I think end of December, early January, I started to do standing exercises at the bus stop, because I travel in quite a way into the Greenwich office. I live up in North London, so I have to get a bus, and then I have to get a train, and then I have to get another bus, and so there's lots of waiting around for public transport. And so I found that I had a bit of discomfort standing, but I find it a lot easier to move rather than to stand still. So I do some sort of leg tapping exercises, or I'd raise my knees in doing marching on the spot whilst I'm waiting for buses. And I don't mind people looking and staring. I just look away. I just look into the sky, or I just look in front of me, and I just keep going. And then what I have noticed actually is that there are other people who, when they're getting on the train or waiting for buses, they'll do some other kinds of stretches or movements. And what most people tend to do, which it seems quite innocuous, is that they pace around when they're waiting for public transport rather than standing still. And so I find that a good way to use my time in terms of trying to insert a bit of movement into my day, which is harder for me when I'm at work, because I'm on, I'm stuck at my PC for quite a long time. So having that time at the start of the day and at the end of my working day where I can do some standing exercises, I find quite helpful.
Well, I think if we take you as a guinea pig, which is very helpful. I'll give you, there's a high technology approach. You can look at the bus stop, and if it says how many minutes till the next bus comes, I know most of the stops in the road I go on in Oxford.
Yeah.
So I know I can walk 1 stop or 2 stops or 3 stops, and that just gives me another 7 minutes out of my 30. And then I think, speak to, I don't know if David's on or not, but I think it's often good for an office to have a Pilates teacher or yoga teacher. I'd be very pleased to pay, I'll pay for it, get a Pilates teacher to come in, even for 1 session. And that's starting to think every hour, a bit of stretching. And in the middle of the day, 10 minutes brisk walking. I've been trying to get the civil service to make sure the computers are switched off every 3 hours, and they'll only go back on again if you've done 10 minutes of brisk walking. It's entirely feasible to do, but
brilliant.
One of my many failures.
I think that's an amazing idea. Sorry, Judith, were you going to say something?
I just said that was really good, because it's so easy when you're at work to work through.
Yeah.
You eat your sandwich at your desk, you're still looking at your screen all the time, and it's a real discipline to get up, get out, even just for 20 minutes walk. It makes such a difference.
Yeah. No, if I were managing a department, I would make sure that people went out at lunchtime, because I'd get better work from them in the afternoon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So whether I was bothered about them or not, just getting people on the move, you get more work out of them. That's the thing.
The other answer is to get a dog.
Yes.
Retire and get a dog. I've never been so fit.
Yeah, but I'm changing the word retirement to renaissance. Because you need to start thinking about doing new things. And that's what people are doing now, is they're taking up either voluntary or starting a business or joining a charity or doing something. So renaissance is the theme from now on.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any comments, observations, or questions? Or if they just want to share their experience of how they incorporate movement and exercise into their day?
Or volunteering. Remember, we can reduce the risk of dementia, which is the disease we fear most now.
Absolutely.
And engaging with others is very important. As I say, being a volunteer or being in a committee, because my experience that voluntary committees are more passionate than civil service committees. People care.
Mary, you'd like to ask?
Really pleased that you've said you can improve your fitness level. I did a lot of holidays walking, and when I turned up to 75, I felt very fit and healthy. Since 75, I seem to have sort of creaky bones, so I'm looking forward to trying to improve the fitness level from now on.
I'm sorry, I can't understand a word you're saying. I think you're Hungarian, are you, or Romanian? Well, I think you should try. It doesn't really matter. Yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, one of the three. If you've got a local.
I do yoga every Monday morning.
You good?
And I go to the gym, and it used to be a regular basis. It's now become irregular, but I'll try and get back to being regular.
Well, because of the effects of aging, reducing resilience, you've actually got to do more exercise the longer you live. That's the paradox. Because you're losing, the tissues are getting a little bit stiffer. So you need an extra minute stretching with every year that passes. So
thank you.
You're doing the right thing, but I'm afraid you need to think of doing more, because you're combating the aging process.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hi, Jean, you've got your hand up. If you'd like to unmute yourself, please. Jean?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Lovely.
I've managed to unmute myself. Yeah,
lovely.
The bad news about all this, of course, is that the government's putting up the retirement age more and more. And because we need to exercise more the older we get, then this is obviously a very good reason for putting up the retirement age further. My other thought was, I think you're lucky not to live in London, because you'll be lucky to get your health check over under 75. I think you do if you're not on any tablets, but if you're on tablets, it's just a blood pressure check, and also all the business about think about questions, blah blah. It's a strict 10 minutes.
Yes,
and that's on the telephone.
Yeah. But also what we're looking at is setting up groups of people with the same condition. So one of my daughters got type 1 diabetes, and she set up a group of people with type 1 diabetes who like doing serious exercise. So they can write one another on a Thursday evening at 10 o'clock. I'm doing a marathon at the weekend. Any suggestions? So I think we're also seeing that what we call buddy care is increasingly important. That you find people with the same problem. My partner's got Parkinson's, or my partner's got dementia, or I've got Parkinson's. So we have to think of ways in which we can make the best use of digital to develop these groups of people.
Yes, and I'm in a couple of walking groups as well.
Very
So
good.
yes, and I saw we probably are quite brisk, although of course we then wait for the slower people to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Hi, Anne. Do you have a question?
Well, yeah, it is a question. It's a request more than a question. The 12-minute exercises, is there a way that we could gather those and put them on our website or circulate them and, you know, to get people motivated to do those?
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's there's the NHS website's pretty boring, but it's got a very good strength and flex section. But I'll follow up this talk with Letitia, and we'll make available the PowerPoint, and but I'll turn those 6 points into a checklist. And
fantastic.
I think also I'm trying to get the NHS to introduce birthday cards to give you a bit of a boost on your birthday. Say, well, how's it going, Anne? And each year you be a little more active. And I know you may find it more difficult, but it's good for you in the short and the long term. So we need to encourage people in that way. So that's where I see the civil service retirement scheme, because the civil service pension people, like the NHS pension people, they've got everyone's address and everyone's birthday.
Yeah, it's true.
So start to think how we reach people, give them a nudge.
Indeed. Thank you so much. That's fantastic, so inspiring, and thank you so much, Sir Muir. And we're going to move on now to our next speaker. And as Sir Muir mentioned, we need to make the most of the digital. Our next speaker is Dr. Wendy Martin, who will be talking about aging and the digital. So Dr. Wendy Martin is the Senior Lecturer and Director of Research in the Department of Health Sciences at Brunel University in London. Her research focuses on aging, embodiment, the digital and everyday life, and the use of visual material and digital methods. She was Principal Investigator for ESRC Research Project, Photographing Everyday Life, and is Co-Investigator for UKRI Aging Development Award, Sound Environment and Aging, and for Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada International Partnership Aging in Data. Wendy is also the co-editor of Socio-Geron Technology, Interdisciplinary Critical Studies of Aging and Technology, and Routledge Handbook of Cultural Geron Technology, and on the editorial boards Aging and Society and Journal of Global Aging. Welcome, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this invitation and that really lovely welcome and introduction. It was really lovely to be with you all. It sounds like a really amazing work that you all do. I suppose what I like to sort of share a little bit is a lot of I said my work. I used to be a nurse, and most of my research has been in aging, and particularly about people's everyday experiences. And I think one of the key changes in the last 2 decades, while I've been doing my research, has been the use of the digital and how we're using many more digital devices and digital technologies within our everyday life. And I suppose that my interest is how we use them, why we use them, but also what the implications are for us all as we're growing older, having more and more digital, and what that means for us, and how we can do that. And some of the sort of some of the conversations we've been having about the importance of social connectivity. Of course, digital is a new way to have social connections, is quite important. It can be also a way to monitor our health and steps, and then we'll say something about smart technologies as well, and also the music, how we can engage with music as well. And I think, as you said, Letitia, one of my current projects is around the use of natural sounds in care homes as well. So what I hope to do in this presentation is to look at different ways from some of the from speaking to people or getting people to photograph parts of their life. I've been talk about how people are using the digital technologies and in their everyday life. The increase of smart technology is whether that's smart technologies in the home or the Fitbits and all those things that we might be wearing. And also I was asked to say something about artificial intelligence, and I will give an example with some ChatGPT. I am doing some work on AI and aging, but I'm not a technology person. I'm more of a social person. But I think it's, obviously it's going to be one of the key changes to how we're growing older is AI. And we don't know what all those changes are going to be, but we can see what some of them are now. So I suppose just to start is I think one of the key things is that people all around them are they may be having on their body, around their body, in their handbags, in their bags, around them, or have digital technologies. And it's quite interesting how we increasingly are using these portable technologies, how to communicate, for entertainment, for work. So, all aspects of, as I say, monitoring our health and all aspects and caring and all aspects of everyday life. And I suppose about, this is some of the work I did on photographing everyday life, which was probably around about 2013, 14. And it was quite an interesting time because during this time, the iPad came out during the 2 years that we were collecting the data. And so it's around about 2011, 2013. And you could see through people and the photographs they were taking how the iPad became more and more incorporated. And I think it's something to do about the touch and the technology of it that it has. And I think that's one key thing is when we think of technologies, they're always changing, and how do we connect with those different technologies. But as you can see, people are incorporating these technologies, but more than one technology. So you can see with the woman there, she's got her camera, she's on the phone, she's on the laptop. So we're using multiple different technologies at the same time. And it is becoming more and more part. So this is one of the participants at that time saying, oh, I love my iPad and be doing other things, but I'll have my iPad with me and I go upstairs, and people talk about how time, we talk about importance of walking, but how time can disappear on the digital as well. You can be there for thinking you're there for 10 minutes and quite a lot of time has gone. So thinking about how that, the impact in that, and how people use it often for different purposes, looking at photographs, reading, Googling, finding out information. I mean, I think it has impacts of how we memory and how we use memory as we grow older as well, because obviously it's a memory device for us as well, so we have to think of that as well. So it's a really interesting way that how people are completely incorporating many different technologies in their spaces and places, their workplaces, their homes, the social spaces, being out and about, and on and with our bodies as well. So they're portable, they're becoming increasingly portable. I think what really, really, really did make the change, though, was the COVID-19. And, I think we all use Teams and Zoom much more than we did at the beginning of that. And towards the end of that, in about 2021, 22, we did some focus groups with people 50 years and older about their experiences of using the digital during the pandemic. And I think we all, we all use a lot more digital since then. And, a lot of people saying, well, I'd never heard of Zoom or Teams until the digital and things like that. And the key reason was connectivity, connecting with others, social connections, keeping in touch with family, keeping in touch with friends, keeping in touch with interests. So as they say, I didn't have a clue what they were, says Sylvia. One of my friends, and people used it but quite very creatively as well. So people were saying, well, we did some crafts, so you didn't have to sit talking all the time, but they could be together doing crafts and online. The importance of Zoom call and FaceTiming for the family and keeping connections, or people in groups who maybe move away as well. I think one of the last sort of quote was quite interesting. I think there's a whole thing about how you present yourself on digital. I think it's something we think about, the presentation itself, and people, you know, get more used to it. But it's something we think, you know, although you can only see a small bit of your space, is how we present ourselves when we use these technologies as well. And you know, and I think that's, you know, we probably all got our own techniques for that now. So I think as well, thinking about going forward is to say, you know, there is a huge increase of these digital technologies, but I think the huge move at the moment is around the use of smart technologies. And some of these smart technologies, and you know, basically often the word big data is used. Lots of huge amounts of data is from this. So I mean, some of the technologies are here. The sort of voice technologies like Alexa and others are there. So where you can ask you can communicate, make connections, you can ask Alexa different things. So it's a way of using your voice to ask. I think that, you know, the technologies that we wear, a lot of smart technologies are there. Now, these are also, as you can see, what's quite interesting is that you know, these are monitoring a lot of our bodily, you know, quite intimate things around our body, how long we sleep, the steps, you know, there's certain, you know, with the GPS and everything else, they know where we've been, you know, so, you know, I mean, if you're walking along and you're going in and out of different people's sort of, you know, going into the train station or different spaces, you go through different people's Wi-Fi and they pick you up and can see, so you can see where you are. So, you know, it is quite interesting that, you know, we are you know, collecting and this a lot of, you know, very often intimate bodily data, you know, and a lot of people sort of, you know, monitor the steps, and it's a way of, you know, for people increasing steps. I mean, I think sometimes through the research I've done, I think people use the step function or look at it more often when they're trying to increase their steps. I think when there's times in life for whatever reason you can't, people don't tend to look at it as much, which I think is quite interesting as well. But you know, but people like, so in the supermarket where you don't always get the steps picked up and things. So it is one way of monitoring, you know, it is as a form of health or self-technology. We're monitoring ourselves within this. And as you can see, the real technique of this is how that information, the steps or an hours of sleep, becomes visualized. So you can see with this middle one at the top, it becomes visualized so you can see very quickly your steps every day or how much you've slept, and then you can also get, sometimes they say, well, you know, you reward because you hit your target or everything. So they're very clever technologies, but it is a visualization of these that really connect with people as well. As you can see, there's often the internet sometimes how lots of technologies connect together. And there's also technologies in the home. So it might be a fridge, it might be different type of technologies within, you know, sometimes it could be types of surveillance technologies so that you can monitor if someone has fallen or someone has moved and that type of thing as well. So you can have technologies within the house. It can be also sort of reminders to take medication, can be set up in the house or on the person as well. So there's a huge amount of technologies and technologies that are being created for older people and used by older people. And I think this is, you know, a lot of these sort of technologies are really about enhancing independence, but also there, you know, there is also, we are also sharing a lot of data as well, and something that as well, which comes on to the next part, because we hear a lot about artificial intelligence as well. So I was asked to say something about artificial intelligence, and I think AI is going to be one, you see, people were talking about it, is going to be one of the huge changes in the next, is already and is going to be, is very much, is the use of computers or systems within computers that can start performing tasks which had been considered before around what that required required some level of intelligence of humans. And I mean, I suppose they mainly they're called machine learning are the main ones, in which they learn from all these different collections of data. So in some ways, looking at different smart technologies and different data that's continually being produced. There's patterns that can be predicted. There's different patterns and things that can be predicted. And so they look at all this large amount of data. They can see patterns, make predictions, and that is the form of learning. The data is learning on learning, and it can increasingly be used for problem solving, decision making, learning, and other things. And I mean, in universities at the moment, and in people will often, maybe for your first idea of your research or your first idea for your question of your essay, people will use what's ChatGPT. And I'm going to show an example, because I did ask it a question and show you what kind of data you get from that in a moment.
Right.
But there are also good, if we're wearing all these technologies, they can also be, they know if you start, if maybe like fall detectors, it can things like that, or if your patterns have changed. And so they can also be used in different ways as well to, in people's homes as well. So for your own monitoring, and possibly also monitoring by others. So it is through this often, and we hear a lot about the idea of algorithms, which are these sort of list of rules that created by the computer that inform tasks and solves problems. And earlier we heard about the importance of ageism, and we know that data produced in the real world can have levels of ageism, so sometimes very positive images or more negative images of age and aging. And so we also need to be aware that as these technologies develop, and that they will have these isms, whether that be ageism or any other ism that may be significant as well, and think about how that may impact on us all. So, I mean, the most common one that's often talked about is ChatGPT. There are other sort of ones as well. So I thought, as we're having the befriending conference today, this morning I did this is what it looks like. This is just online. You can get an app, you can do it. You don't have to log in, do anything. This is what I did without doing anything if you want to give it a go. So you just go to ChatGPT, and I ask, what is befriending? You can ask it any questions, you could ask, what is artificial intelligence? You could ask all sorts of different questions of it. You could ask, you could also use it for more things, how would I develop strategies for a befriending policy, and it will look at all this data and come out with ideas that can be used in all sorts of different things that we can use. And this was the answer. It says it gave this is the problem, looking at all the different data. So it's not just like Googling where you get lots of links and different things. It looks over lots of data, and this is its summary, and it's very quick. It came up very quick. So it refers to the forming friendly relationships with someone, often characterized by providing companionship, support, and understanding. It's about building trust, creating a sense of connection, offering emotional support. Can happen in different contexts, meeting new people, supporting, going through tough times, simply extending and forming a genuine friendship. And I'm sure you'll have more thoughts on whether that's a fair representation, because I think as well we have to be careful, is that you really need some knowledge to check that you can use it as a tool, a resource, but it's useful to have we still need the people to make sure that it makes sense and it isn't doing this thing. The other thing is, as I was saying, I've done a lot of work with people in different contexts, working about increasing using digital technologies, and they are more and more used for social connections. So people, it may be the more immediate and very immediate. So it might be through Zoom, it might be through Teams, of people you can't see in person. It might be through WhatsApping and keeping connections that way. It might be through these whole range of different technologies. But I think what comes through again and again and again is still there is something different about being in the same place at the same time with with people. There's something we gain from that. So I mean, I think that, you know, these social connections can enhance and things, but there is something, and it comes through very strongly in the research about the importance of being with people in the same place at the same time, in that sort of way. So I think the technology, there's huge opportunities and possibilities with digital technologies as we grow older, and that and in different ways, particularly around connecting with others, social connections. It can enhance our health. It can be used as a tool, in different ways too. And I think it can be used as a memory. You know, I think memory is quite interesting as well, about how we often use our smart, you know, these days, if I can't remember an actor in a film, I'll write a few words in my Google and the name comes up. You know what I mean? How we use memory is really changing, I think. So I think it is changing a lot, which is quite interesting as well. And they hark's very central and incorporated into our daily lives. There is the digital divide to some extent. People talk about there is some people who don't have access to the digital. That is true. I think that is true around but for people financially, because it's not cheap, a lot of these digital devices, and so we have to think about that. And there are some people, older people, who still don't connect so much with the digital. But I think the stereotype that older people aren't engaged with technologies is an old one now. It is not something. Many older people are using technologies. They're using them for a purpose, and they're using them in many different ways, and they're becoming increasingly important into people's everyday lives. Some of these are like, you know, the smart technologies where we're tracking ourselves or have been tracked in different ways because of this data that's collected as well, and we're choosing to do that. And I think that's quite interesting, because if we're looking at us, I always think the first time I did put a Fitbit on and I was away and I thought, oh, I had a really lovely sleep, and then I looked at my Fitbit and I thought, oh my goodness, it looked at, I had very little sleep, it said, and it was disturbed, and I thought, well, I must be tired. So I think that, you know, how we use these technologies and how they make us feel is quite interesting as well. But they can be used as health devices as well. But the importance of people is really key. I mean, I think artificial intelligence in terms of health and healthcare, in terms of social care, which is I'm also interested in doing work on, and I think and in terms of everyday life, is going to be quite central. So I think that's something. I think it is at the beginning, so we're learning more and more about it, but it is going to change our world in the next few years. So thank you very much for listening.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Martin. Let me just give you some reactions here. There you go. Thank you so much. That was fascinating.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Because you covered so much there. And so it was really good that you sort of distilled for us how the digital can impact on our lives. And one question that I wanted to ask the group is, does anybody here have wearable digital technology or like a smartwatch or something like that? Has anybody engaged with that kind of technology?
No.
Chris, you raised your hand.
Yes, I got a Garmin smartwatch, and it's brilliant because it helps me set goals, because it will track me walking, cycling, running, whatever exercise I'm doing. And you know, you can set goals with it, and you know your pace, you know your heart rate, I know the elevation I've climbed, all sorts of things. So I find it really useful.
And do you find that before you had the smartwatch, when you took part in those activities, do you feel that you're doing more now because you have your smart technology rather than before? I
don't know if I'm doing more, but I'm pushing myself harder, because I know now what I've previously done, and I perhaps didn't know the distance before. I didn't know the time or how much elevation I'd done on a bike or something. So I like a goal.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just occasionally it's a useful reminder for me, perhaps not to push myself too much, because I get a bit crazy cycling and things like that, and occasionally it says perhaps ease off a bit.
So it provides you with some advice as well as counting your steps.
In that sense, because you know, I don't know how accurate they are in terms of the heart rate and the calories and things like that, but You know, it gives you an indication anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's a good
I
guide.
find it very useful.
Oh, fantastic. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Dr. Martin, please?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Carol.
I'm sorry, but I've lost my picture on the screen, but I can hear what you're saying.
We can see you and hear you, Carol.
Oh, well, that's good, though I'm not sure the picture is that uplifting.
It's always lovely to see you, Carol.
Thank you anyway. I have two things I was thinking of saying. The one was, one of the exercises regimes I have is whenever I'm getting dressed in the morning, I have a point of walking around the bedroom and counting my steps quickly, going round and back, so that I do so many each time. And I aim to do at least 500 steps from the point of getting out of bed and taking my night clothes off and putting my day clothes on and washing in between.
Yeah.
That is quite easy to do, and it builds up quite well. And the other thing I do is every time I visit the small room, I do my toe touching.
Oh, yes.
And I sort of work out, I'm going to do up to 10, but if I manage to touch the floor before 5, I keep it to 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do that a number of times a day, it does move up. And I'm sorry if I sound like a silly old bat, but
You don't at all. I think you made a fascinating point. I mean, because I don't have a smartwatch, but I do have an app on my phone that came with my phone that counts your steps. And when you mentioned getting dressed and walking around your room to get to 500 steps, you don't realize how easy it is to get to that amount of steps in a relatively short period of time. So whether you're counting your steps yourself or whether you have smart technology to do it, it is possible for you to give yourself an idea of how much movement you can incorporate into a few short minutes at a time and do at different intervals, so that you're not, we're not suggesting that people go around doing 2 hours worth of heavy exercise and putting ourselves into a bit of a frenzy, but just incorporating a few steps, like if you're boiling the kettle, walking around the kitchen or walking up and down or doing some gentle marches or whatever, or doing some simple arm raises. So I think you made a very good, very interesting point, Carol.
another thing that I've also found, I live in a bungalow and I have done for 70 odd years.
Yeah.
And the thing is now, though, it's useful to use steps. So whenever I'm going anywhere, like to my local health centre or a shop or something, I try and use the stairs.
Yeah.
Even if I have to go slowly if there's several flights.
Yeah.
And the other thing I found to use, I've got one of those step stools with a handle.
Yeah.
For safety, and if you use that as a step machine, it's quite useful. And they're not as expensive as some electronic jobby.
All right, so you've found an analog way to have machinery in your house that would normally cost a lot of money if you went to buy a machine to do it. You've got something, you've got a mechanism within your house that you can use that gives you the same results, and so that's very positive, isn't it?
It's the equivalent of using Dr. Gray's bags of sugar, or the favourite thing that's mentioned, the tins of baked beans.
Oh yes, indeed, yes. Thank you, Carol. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. I haven't finished anything useful.
Thank you, Carol. That all of it was very useful. Thank you so much. Chris, you've had your hand up. Thank you for being patient. You got a question?
Yes, Letitia. Yes, question for Wendy. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you, Chris.
Good. I've been fortunate enough to go on an adult education course who instructed us on digital appliances, particularly with our mobile phones. Would she agree that these are good to do academically and also socially, because I found them very rewarding.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, as you say, going for different classes on different things, whether to use digital technologies is really helpful. And sometimes, you know, places like libraries, you can use, you know, if you haven't got your own, you can also use them in the libraries and things like that. So I think that's an important thing that we need to keep, because, you know, we need to make sure that they keep that. It was really important as well. Yeah, no, education is always good, and it's always good, you know, and I think it does enhance. It's a different way of enhancing the social aspects that's important to us, that we've been talking about really through all this, about the importance of you know, our relationships and social connections and things. But you know, the digital is one way of doing it. You know, sometimes, and we can keep in touch with that. You know, but as I say, you know, but an education is a good way of moving that forward as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was a very interesting question. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Martin.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next our next part of the meeting, which will be an interactive exercise. And I hope you all do take part, and I hope you all do unmute yourselves so we can all hear each other taking part in this exercise. So we're not going to be doing anything too physical. We're not going to be standing up or anything. We will remain seated where we are, but it's an instructional video of incorporating laughing yoga into our day. So please unmute yourselves and I will set up the video. Thank you. So, let me see. So I just need to share my screen with you. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll start to play the video, and then if you can let me know if you can hear the video, because there is a bit of an introduction to begin with before we actually take part in the exercise.
My name is Madan Kataria.
I can hear.
Yes, I can hear the video.
I can hear.
The founder of Laughter Yoga.
Brilliant, thank you.
Everybody can laugh when times are good. But how do you laugh when you go through the challenges like the one we have right now? This is where Laughter Yoga can help you. You can laugh even if you don't feel like laughing, even if you're not happy, stressed out, because in Laughter Yoga, we use laughter as a form of exercise. This is not a comedy. Are you ready to laugh with me?
I am ready to laugh.
Let me explain.
Yeah, go on.
And then we will laugh. Scientific studies have proven that even if you laugh for the sake of laughing, even voluntary laughter will bring the same benefit as genuine laughter. Okay, the first laughter exercise is warm-up exercise. Since it's very difficult to laugh without a reason, we need to do some warm-up. We produce different laughing sounds as a form of exercises. So please follow me. Next step is breathing. Breathing is a very important part of laughter yoga. In fact, laughter itself is like a breathing exercise. When you're laughing, you are exhaling. And there is a lot of residual air in your lungs, which gets eliminated when you laugh. So put your hands out like this and take a long deep breath. Hold your breath while exhaling. Take a long deep breath. Hold it, and laugh it out. Are you feeling better?
I'm feeling fantastic.
We we call childlike cheers.
Okay.
And it goes very good.
Very good. Yay!
They've lost my picture. Right.
Very good. Very good. Yay!
Guys, fake it until you make it. I told you that even if you are laughing on purpose, even voluntary laughter will give you the same benefits as spontaneous laughter. So let's pretend laughing and let it get into your natural laughter. Okay, ready? Do it with me. Ha 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 ha
I am laughing with you.
Switch video. Someone switch yourself on. There you are. You're back on.
Laughter yoga exercises, reduce stress, strengthen your immune system, and keep your mind positive. So let's do another exercise, which is most popular exercise in laughter yoga. It's called milkshake laughter.
It's
2 glasses of milk, imaginary, and pour one into each other.
Very good. Very good. Yay!
Exercise in laughter is called credit card bill laugh. Don't imagine you have received a bill for your Visa card or MasterCard. Put your palm like this and look at your bill and show it to her.
Very good. Very good. Yay!
Oh.
There we are. Okay, I'm going to stop. Sorry, I can't stop laughing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay. And now we're back. Sorry, I love that guy. Anytime I lead a lift, I watch one of his videos. It just makes me smile. But now my cheeks are hurting. So I hope you. Sorry, I hope you. I'm sorry. I hope. I need to breathe. Very good. Very good. Hey, I hope you found his instructional video very helpful, and I hope you laughed along. Olive, do you have a question?
Yes. What about the drink? We need a drink after this. You haven't said we could drink.
Completely forgot about the drinking game. We were supposed to, because I asked everyone in your invite to bring you a glass of water or your favorite drink.
Yes.
And every time you hear the word befriending or befrienders, you take a sip. Now, I've just said befriending and befrienders, so that makes that 4 times now. So I think we need to take 4 sips.
I've been sipping. I've got ginger beer.
1, 2, 3, 4. So anytime we say that phrase, we take a sip, because it is important to be hydrated, because we know that when we're in the middle of doing something, we forget, there are things that we forget to do, and keeping hydrated is one of them. And it's really important because it keeps us hydrated, keeps us alert, keeps us happy and healthy. So just one more for luck. Befriending. So another sip. Okay. I'm still laughing from that last video. Okay. So thank you. So let's move along. So just a very mini update on the coffee morning. Some of you may have attended. We had the coffee morning back in February, which was our first online event for the befriending community of the year. Excuse me. We had around 12 people attend back then. And some attendees requested to receive the media pack to share in their local communities. And so those were sent out the next day to some people. And as I said earlier, if you would like me to send you out the media pack, let me know and I will do so. I can either email it to you or I can put it in the post if you prefer. Okay, and we also learned a lot of things from our spring-themed quiz that we had at the coffee morning. And one of them that I didn't know was that in the Roman calendar, March was the first month of the year. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I knew that.
And of course you did, Olive. You did know that. Fantastic. Well, you know a lot more than I do, Olive, so it doesn't surprise me that you do. Oh, yes, you do. Okay, and speaking of quizzes, we're now moving on to our quiz. So, do you all have a piece of paper and a pen to take part in our quiz?
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and then I shall put the questions on the screen. And I have to make sure I put the question page and not the answer page on the screen. So let me just double check first which one I'm going to. Yes, that's right. Okay.
Put the answers first, then the questions.
I could do it that way around, couldn't I? Let me just share my screen.
I still haven't got a picture, but I can still listen to other people.
Yes, you can indeed.
It's not there yet.
Okay. Okay, so right. Okay, can you see my screen yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So this
Yeah,
is
we can't
CSRF.
read that. Can you enlarge it?
I can enlarge it indeed.
Oh. No. I can't see a thing. I can see.
Hang on.
Only see part of the quiz. The bits is larger, but it's
Don't forget you got. I'm old. I'm old. I know everybody else.
Oh,
My
that's-
eyesight's not that good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, is that better for everyone?
That's better.
Okay, lovely. Let me just get those gifts out the way so we've got the questions on
Where did
screen.
you get these questions? My God.
I got them from various sources. Olive.
Looks like you made them up.
Right. Question number 1. How many square feet is the average adult's human skin?
Wow.
It's our biggest organ, the bioderm. So
Square feet.
How many square feet?
And my arm is about 3, 6. My legs about 8. 6 and 8, 14, 22. My torso. I'd say about 50. No.
You're gonna give the answer away, Olive.
I'd say about. Oh, so I'll go write it down. Fine.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. What body system is the liver part of? What body system is the liver part of? Question number 3. How many times does a heart beat over the course of an average human lifespan?
What's an average human lifespan?
Well, maybe according to Sir Muir, we might be living until we're 90, so that might become average.
Well, when was the question written? I think the answer is when you run out of space, isn't it, on the line? Because
Question 4. Where on your body is your skin the thinnest? Hasnath knows the answer.
Is it the same everywhere? Skin the thinnest.
So what part of the body has the thinnest part of skin? Okay. Question number 5. Is it possible to breathe and swallow at the same time? I tried this and it didn't end well. So that might give me a clue as to the answer to the question.
Was that when you were in hospital last week?
And question number 6. What percentage of the human body is water? Question number 7. How many taste buds does the average human tongue have? Question number 8. Which vitamin helps with calcium absorption and bone health? Which vitamin? Question 9. True or false? The human brain continues to grow throughout life. And question 10. What is the most common blood type? So, a quick recap. Question number 1, how many square feet is the average adult human skin? Question number 2, what body system is the liver part of? Question 3, how many times does a heart beat over the course of an average human lifespan? Question number 4, where in your body is your skin the thinnest? Question number 5, is it possible to breathe and swallow at the same time? Question number 6, what percentage of the human body is water? Question number 7, how many taste buds does the average human tongue have? Question number 8, which vitamin helps with calcium absorption and bone health? Question number 9, true or false, the human brain continues to grow throughout life? And question number 10, what is the most common blood type? Excuse me. So we'll go to the answers now. And I haven't written these answers. These answers were found online, so if you disagree with them, that's fine. It's not me who wrote these questions. I just collated them.
Go to Google then.
Okay, let's go to the answers. Okay, do you need me to make these bigger?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Okay, so question number 1. How many square feet is the average adult human skin? It's 19 square feet.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I got 22.
Well, you were close. I think you should give yourself a point if you were within 10.
22 is pretty good.
Yeah, I think you should give yourself a point anyway.
Depends
So
on
if you were
big you are,
close.
isn't it? I'm a big girl.
Question number 2. What body system is the liver part of? It's part of the digestive system.
Digestive, yes, I got that.
Question number 3. How many times does a heart beat over the course of an average human lifespan? It's over 3 billion times.
Oh, God. I got 10 million. Over 3 billion.
Well, maybe you're very relaxed, Olive. That's why your heartbeat's 3 million, 10 million. And where on your body is your skin the thinnest? It's the eyelid. And Hasnath knew this one.
I got the eye, not the eyelid. Oh.
Well, again, you were close. You were
no
within the vicinity.
Eye, so that's a stupid answer. Why did I put eye? No skin on it. Yeah, must be.
And is it possible to breathe and swallow at the same time? The answer is no, according to the quiz. Question 5. And as I said, I tried this last week and I ended up almost choking. Question number 6. What percentage of the human body is water? It's approximately 60%.
Oh, I got 9.
I got 50, so I was close.
I did 5.
Got 50.
You were very close, very close. And how many taste buds does the average human tongue have? It has, oh, hang on, I need to just scroll across. It has around 10,000.
10,000 taste buds. I got 10.
10,000.
10,000 taste buds.
And which vitamin helps with calcium absorption and bone health?
D.
And that's vitamin D.
Yeah, I got that.
And true or false, the human brain continues to grow throughout life.
Nope.
And correct, it does not. The human brain stops growing around the age of 18.
Yeah.
Which is a shame for me because I wasn't at my brightest when I was 18. Okay, question number 10. What is the most common blood type?
This is positive.
So there you are. They're the answers to our questions. I hope you all did well. And if you didn't, it doesn't matter because we've all learned something anyway. So well done.
I got 5 out of 10.
In my case.
Quite tricky though, weren't they?
Yeah, it is quite tricky. I mean, it was hard to find questions about different parts of the body. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. So we're coming towards the end now of our conference today. So I'll just want to close with some final thoughts. So as we heard today, we heard from our amazing speakers today, and we heard from Richard. He told us how important befriending is, and that through the survey, we learned that it provided evidence that befriending supports well-being and mental health. We heard from Sir Muir, who told us that it's never too late to improve our physical and mental health. And Dr. Martin informed us how people are incorporating technology with their lives and enhancing their independence. So I hope you have got something very positive out of our meeting today. And I'd like to thank our speakers, Richard Wildash, Sir Muir Gray, and Dr. Wendy Martin. It's very kind of you to give us your time today and your thoughts and your expertise. So we really do appreciate you being with us today. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to thank all of you attending today. Thank you for your support and using our befriending services and volunteering for our befriending services. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. And it's really lovely to see you face to face because I've spoken to some of you on the phone. And Mary, we had a mini chat this morning, so it's lovely to see you face to face again. And I hope you had a lovely holiday as well.
I did.
And so I think we should say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Can I just say one thing, Letitia?
Yes, indeed.
I did want to say something, but I was unmuted. With Richard, what Richard was saying, talking about mental health and well-being.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. What I was thinking from my own experience, I think it's because as a retired civil servant, especially because I was paired with somebody who's actually working, it's suddenly you got the urge to find out what's going on at work now since I left, kind of thing. And you kind of relate to these people because they've had your experience. And this is why it helps more, I think, with the mental health and well-being. Because you start off with something in common.
Yeah.
It is unlike other befriending schemes. You know, you can talk about work, how it used to be. And the other person perhaps wants to know what it was like when you were there. Because there's all these years have passed. And that's what I found about it.
Yeah.
But that in itself gives you a good start, gives you a really head start into the friendship.
Yeah, I think that's really positive and a very good.
With the mental health and well-being. Like I said, my husband had dementia. I couldn't speak to anyone because, you know, I felt ashamed because he was telling all these stories about me which weren't true. So I was able to offload on that person.
Yeah.
So it does for that. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Olive. Thank you. And that is a very interesting and important point when as Richard mentioned earlier on, that from our survey, we found that most people who we interviewed as part of the befriending survey, they don't use any other befriending services, but the few that had used other services, they didn't find them as good quality. The volunteers weren't as engaged. They may have been trained differently to how we train our volunteers, and the matches weren't very good, and the matches didn't last very long. So they didn't find them very satisfactory. And so the people who took part in our survey were saying that the CSRF befriending service is the best one they've come across when they've had something to compare it to. And I think the point you're making, Olive, is an important one in relation to that, because you do have that connection because some of the volunteers are
Yeah.
current civil servants.
Yeah.
And so there is that bridge there that is already the gap has already been bridged in terms of
Yes,
having
it
something
is.
in common.
That's what I found. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could
So
I
thank-
just, at this point, on behalf of all of us, say a big thank you to Letitia and the team for organising this. It was a very interesting, varied menu, and I think we've all learnt a lot about a lot of different things. But also, we've come together, we've laughed together, we've shared our thoughts, and that's really valuable and I think supportive and helpful for all of us. So thank you for putting so much thought into making this a really successful conference. And we look forward to a physical one next year.
Fantastic.
I'd like
Thank
to
you so much.
second that she stepped in at short notice because Denise was ill too. So,
Brilliant job.
Letitia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And
Well, you're very welcome.
You did that the last time as well. Oh, and I must say thank you to Richard. You've been a very good chair, very thorough, and I really enjoyed being on the working party.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've done a good job.
Thank you, everyone, and it's nice that we're able to come together like this and have the opportunity and use these digital technologies to commune with each other from various parts of the UK that we're in, and we do. And Denise and I are thinking about other potential events for later on in the year. As I said earlier, there may be one with Aideen Young from the Centre for Ageing Better, and we may also have one with dementia care as well. But we're also trying to think of other possible subjects for us to come and exchange ideas and commune with each other. So thank you so much for everyone. I hope everyone got something out of it. I mean, I definitely I still, every time I think about that chat, I can't stop laughing. So just remember, if you're feeling a bit stressed, or if you just need a little lift, just have a little giggle to yourself, and you'll automatically brighten. Very good, very good. Yay! So yeah, and if you're lactose intolerant, you can throw the milk away, or you can pretend to drink it yourselves. So everyone have a wonderful afternoon and an amazing week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, done.